Abandoned government developmental project is a major drain on Ghana's public purse. Several government projects funded through, of course, many funds either from the government of Ghana or from multinationals from all sectors have over the years stalled or been abandoned without a lot more explanation to the citizenry. And in this report, Joy News Brong Ahafo Regional Correspondent Nestor Kafri-Ajoma exposes educational projects in the region that have been neglected in many districts and municipalities.
Various educational infrastructural development projects across the Brong Ahafo region have been neglected, abandoned or unduly delayed. For the purpose of this report, the focus is on Wenchi and Doma municipalities, as well as Banda and Ahafo North districts. Bandaman Senior High Technical School is one of the 5 schools to be built in the Brong Ahafo region as part of the first 50 schools of the 200 senior high schools promised by President John Dramani Mahama. The project started in June 2014, was to be completed in 18 months, but the contractor Alhaji Zagi has abandoned the project for no known reason. The Member of Parliament for the Banda constituency, Ahmed Ibrahim, says government must abrogate the contract.
This school was one of the first 50 batch. You know, the 200 community day school, 50 were given at the first contract. Banda was a beneficiary of the first batch. We cut short here before we went to Krobo. Krobo has been completed. Dema has been completed. New Long Road has been completed. All these schools, all these contracts were awarded after Bandaman Senior High Community Day School had been awarded. The contractor, when he came, he was using hammer for construction. He will come today, tomorrow he will not come. And I'm not surprised that now he has nobody as such.
In Wenchi, construction of a 6-unit classroom block for Wenchi Model 2C Primary was started under former President Kufuor by the then DCE Joe Dankwa, but subsequent DCEs did not continue the project. As a result, pupils of the school are putting up in a makeshift structure. Mabang Senior High Technical High School is a very deprived school in the Ahafo North District. The school lacks several facilities. The Ghana Education Trust Fund, GET Fund, initiated construction of a dining hall complex in 2006, but construction work has also stalled for several years. The school prefect and the Parents Teacher Association chairman, Chase Sapong, has been appealing to the GET Fund administration to intervene.
About 2007. And it has been left abandoned. Nobody's taking care of it. We don't know the supervising officer. I've contacted the planning officer at this assembly, and no response has been given to me. They say they can't trace the contractor who is doing this project.
In Doma Central Municipality, construction of an assembly hall and an ultra-modern GET Fund dining hall for Doma Senior High School, which started under the previous NDC government, is abandoned. MCE for Doma Central, Gordon Esubonting, says the 2 contracts have been re-awarded and work has since commenced. He explains steps being taken to check cases of abandoned projects.
We should try as much as possible to complete those projects so that they can be of use to the people, so we can have value for money.
Until such a time that contract awarding authorities ensure that their supervisory roles over construction firms is exercised effectively, public funds will always get wasted on projects like these. Nestor Kafri-Ajoma's report for Joy News.
And just in case you live in a community near you that has a lot more of those projects that have been started, well, years ago, but still not completed, let us know. Give us pictures. Let us know a lot more of those communities, and then we'll read them through our WhatsApp number 0560 800,000. Now, the much-awaited Right to Information Bill, which has been in Parliament for more than a decade, will now be passed under a certificate of urgency. The bill, withdrawn and relayed last week with 32 minor amendments, aims to empower citizens to hold public institutions accountable for their actions, as well as their inactions, to ensure that transparency in governance is assured.
The new bill extends the scope of information to be accessed to the private sector, particularly if the disclosure is in the public interest. Chairman of the Constitutional and Legal Committee of Parliament, Magnus Amoati, says the bill will also grant subjects of stolen skins rights to access information relating to income and other resources received by the stolen skin.
Mr. Speaker, it is to the credit of this House that at long last, and after many years of deliberations to and fro, this bill is going to see the light of the day if it is passed by this House. Accordingly, I urge all members to rise up to the occasion and pass this bill. Mr. Speaker, the bill may not be the best, but at least for now, it is the best. It guarantees right to information without undue hindrance in accordance with the constitutional provisions of 1992. The Speaker, this committee also sought that it was not in the interest of the House to bring in matters affecting chieftains. Accordingly, the previous paragraphs that affected institutional chieftains, that ought to make this bill cover aspects of the
Member of Parliament for Efiduase Asokori, Frank Ajin, called for speedy passage of the bill.
Although there's a need for us to have access to right to information, we must ensure that the rights of individuals and the state are not infringed upon. So I think it's not. Another problem that was encountered when we were considering the bill was that, in fact, there were complaints about the cost involved in accessing information in the country, as far as this bill goes. But I think that has been taken care of. Particularly, we noticed that indigent persons it has been provided that indigent persons, maybe the costs as far as they are concerned will be waived. But one great challenge that we are going to face in this country is that record keeping in this system is very bad. And until the records are properly kept and made available, then the bill itself will be of no consequence. So I want to appeal that the authorities or the ministry department agencies that are supposed to keep their records, in the private organizations, must ensure that their records are properly kept.
So what has changed in the new bill, and what is the commitment of government to ensure its passage? That's the question parliamentary correspondent Elton Bobi put to Deputy Attorney General Dominic Ayine.
We haven't proposed that it should come under a certificate of agency, but the Attorney General has impressed upon Parliament that it is urgent that we pass the bill. You remember that the President assured the nation that before the end of his first term in office, he was going to ensure that we pass the bill. And that is how come that the Attorney General has taken the bill very seriously. And so, yes, Parliament knows and has accepted the fact that there is an agency to the bill, but technically we have not filed, requested for a certificate of agency. You remember that we deliberated substantially on the various provisions of the bill before we rose. And then it has been relayed this time. Okay, so in terms of the quality of the provisions and the quality of the suggestions and proposals that were made for amendment, the bill is still intact. And I believe that the law that will be passed by Parliament will be a good law by all international standards. And also remember that we decided to incorporate certain provisions of international treaties and conventions dealing with the right to information, okay, such as the African Union Model Law on the right to information.
The Electoral Commission is assuring Ghanaians of a transparent and a lot more credible elections in December. And the chairperson of the Commission, Charlotte Osei, is also convinced reforms and mechanisms introduced in Ghana's electoral system with support from stakeholders will also give citizens a credible outcome. She told the Ashanti Regional House of Chiefs that results of the elections would be accepted by all, despite suspicions over credibility of the voters' register.
Charlotte Osei says the Commission has worked with the judiciary, political parties and other stakeholders to address concerns about the electoral roll. She cites implementation of 27 out of 29 recommendations of the Commission's Reform Committee. The Commission is also introducing more biometric verification centers to enable each station have two.
So now with all this we have implemented, we believe that this year's elections are going to be more credible, more transparent, and more inclusive. The other inclusion mechanisms which are already there as a matter of practice, we are not doing away with them. And so, for instance, the political parties would be at the printing houses when the ballots are being printed. They would know when the ballots are being transported by the security agencies. On election day, before we start voting, the presiding officers would have to show to everybody present at the polling station that the ballot boxes are empty. Then the Electoral Commission will put their seal on the ballot boxes. And for all political parties who are present and want to, are also allowed to put their seals on the ballot boxes.
Mrs. Osei says increasing the number of polling stations from 26,200 to 29,000 will reduce congestion at voting centers. That leaves polling stations with a maximum of 850 voters each, and that will lower pressure on biometric verification machines. The EC chair told Nananom the commission wants to avoid a repeat of the 2012 presidential election petition. Hence, every effort has been made to ensure transparent and all-inclusive process.
We do not want a repeat of the election petition challenging the presidential results. The Electoral Commission is doing our very best to make sure that these elections are peaceful, they are credible, they are transparent, and the results are accepted by all the parties. And so, for instance, in 2012, we had 26,002 polling stations. Each one had one biometric verification device. In December, we're going to have a little less than 29,000 polling stations. And each polling station would have 2 biometric verification devices, so that if one has a problem or breaks down, we will switch to the second one. As soon as we switch to the second one, there's a backup we will bring from the constituency level to support that polling station.
Meanwhile, the EC chair says all is set for the elections as the commission begins printing of parliamentary ballots on Thursday. She says about 98% of materials needed for the elections have been dispatched to region.
As we speak, Nana, almost everything is ready for the elections. We are doing recruitment. As soon as we finish recruitment, the training would start. All the offshore items we need for the elections, about 98%, 99% are in Ghana. We have taken delivery of the indelible ink, the ballot boxes, the voting screens, the demarcation tapes, the identity jackets for election officials, the life jackets for people who are working in the riverine areas. Our pickups are ready and have been distributed. Our tamper-proof envelopes are in. Our wipes are in. Gloves are in. Rechargeable lamps are in. Validating stamps are in. The batteries for our biometric verification devices are in. Our educational posters are in.
And the chairperson of the Electoral Commission is Charlotte Osei. I guess many of us are getting a lot more confident about the electoral process and how we can have free and fair elections on December 7, 2016. But the flag bearer of the All People's Congress, Hassan Ayariga, is also blaming the National Commission for Civic Education for his disqualification from this year's polls. Dr. Ayariga said this after an Accra High Court on Wednesday adjourned hearing on a legal suit filed against the EC by his party, the APC, challenging his disqualification. Joseph Akable was in court and has filed this report.
The APC flag bearer in his suit wants the court to rule that the EC's decision to disqualify the party denied the APC an opportunity to fill the presidential candidate for this year's polls. He also wants the court to quash the EC's decision to reject his form, as well as order the EC to accept his nomination form. Wednesday's hearing commenced with presiding judge Barbara Tetechawi announcing that she had on her own granted an abridgment of time motion that will ensure that the matter is heard at an early date. The judge also directed that the lawyers for both sides present their written arguments to the court by Friday, October 28, and make oral arguments in court on Monday, October 31. Hassan Ayaga, speaking to pressmen after proceedings, said the failure of the NCCE to educate Ghanaians about their duties led to subscribers endorsing more than one form.
Given the doubt or given the opportunity that whatever the Electoral Commission said was true, I am coming from PNC, and there are members of the PNC that have moved from the PNC to join me in the APC. Ignorantly, some of them could make those common mistakes. But it is the duty of the NCCE to have educated the people on how to vote and how to endorse or how to subscribe. So for us, that fault does not lie on political parties, but lies with the NCCE boss, which was formerly the Madame Charlotte Osei was the former boss of the NCCE. Today, she is the EC boss. So if those common mistakes are happening, then it means that as a former NCCE boss, you didn't do the good job. Because if you had done a good job, I don't think we'll have this kind of common errors coming from the voter.
And the police have not leveled any charges against founder and leader of the Glorious Word Ministry International, the Reverend Owusu Bempah. Well, this is according to his lawyer, Yao Boabing Asamoah, after the man of God was interrogated by the Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police Service earlier on Wednesday. Reverend Owusu Bempah had honored an invitation by the police after he prophesied that the MPP flag bearer, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, may be assassinated, and so called on the police to step up their game to protect him a lot more.
Some supporters and church members of Reverend Owusu Bempah massed up at the police headquarters in support of the popular prophet after he was invited by the police following a prophecy about the presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. But Reverend Bempah believes the encounter will be fruitless because the prophecy is the outcome of a spiritual encounter, and since he will be engaging the police on the physical level, his explanations might not make sense. But while he explained himself to the police, his supporters and church members gathered outside the police headquarters asking for his release. According to them, they don't see the need for the invite, while some claim they were being assaulted by the police.
We are not going until they release him to us. When TB Joshua prophesied that there was going to be danger in the country, the police did not invite him. But when Owusu Bempah prophesied that there was a plot against Nana Addo, we saw it when they threw the stone against him. When NDC was going to Cape Coast for their rally, he prophesied that there was going to be an accident, but he wasn't invited.
Me papa no Owusu Bempah, me godfather, me wofa, me nana, my uncle, me mame, me bibia no.
He's my godfather, uncle. In fact, he's my everything.
Do we
involve the police in spiritual matters? We were here when Obinim said he can rig the elections for any party. Did they call him to answer? They have gone to call the police to beat us up. After the questioning, Reverend Owusu Bempah's lawyer, Yao Boabing Asamoah, briefed the media.
Dr. Isaac Owusu Bempah was invited by the police to give them some advice on how to proceed on some of the revelations he's been having. We've interacted, he has proffered what advice he can give, and now we are on our way back home. He is safe, he is sound, and nothing has happened to him. As we speak now, Apostle Dr. Isaac Owusu Bempah is a totally free man. He was never under arrest. This was a totally friendly visit, and we are happy it's over. We are now on our way home.
Meanwhile, Director General of the Ghana Police Service in charge of operations, COP Christian Tete Yehuno, is warning prophets across the country to keep their prophecies and their predictions to themselves in order to preserve the peace in a run-up to the December polls. We'll see how that goes. But this is what we have to do. We'll want you to get a lot more of the comments you have written down or sent to us through the platform on WhatsApp 0560 800,000. We're streaming live on our Facebook page. Please do go onto Facebook, search for the page, Join Us on TV. Because we've linked that very page to our Twitter handle like Join Us on TV and see us streaming live. Give us a lot more of your comments on many of the interesting stories you've already been watching, and then also anything that is perhaps worrying your mind, you can send us as well. We'll relay some of those messages to you in the course of the next 2.5 hours before we close the show, of course. But we have to take a break. When we come back, we're doing a review of the newspapers. We'll look at the center spread, the back pages, the front pages, and then we'll look at a lot more stories on various online portals. Do stay on. We'll be right back.
Comprehensive coverage of election 2016 here on Election Headquarters on TV, radio, online and mobile.